The Harvard Business Review ran an article on April 7th that we need to talk about. And its main thesis was, and I'm gonna try to be as clean with this thesis as possible. Companies that survive the next decade will not be those with the best algorithms or the most data. They'll be those that have the courage to abandon how decisions get made. Bold, right? Bold claim.
That is a bold claim. Wow.
Okay. Hang on before you nod along in, because I did the same thing. I'm nodding along in a polite yet tacitly approving way, without knowing any details. So the two guys that get paid every day to come into companies to replace their decision-making apparatus were the ones that wrote this article.
Interesting. So you're telling me that Harvard Business Review is now a sales channel for private equity?
Always has been. So this is just the AI-flavored edition. Welcome back to Arguing Agile. If this is your first time, welcome. I'm your host, Product Manager Brian Orlando, and this is my co-host, Enterprise Business Agility Leader, and the Admiral of Alignment himself, Mr. Om Patel.
Admiral of Alignment. Wow. Love it.
That's right. So the HBR piece that I was talking about in the intro, it's titled Decision Making by Consensus Doesn't Work in the AI Era. It's one of the cleanest examples of the pattern that we keep talking about and running aground of on the podcast, and we're gonna talk about it today. So we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna dig into it. We're gonna get all up in its business and carefully read through the article. Okay, to talk about what's true, what's not true. We're gonna name the moves, and we're gonna do all the heavy lifting.
So I see some critical analysis forthcoming.
That's right. By the end of this conversation, you, the viewer or listener, depending on your medium, whatever you prefer, listen. Hey, I'm not held hostage by Spotify's requiring me to subscribe to do more development against their platform. There may or may not have been a pre-podcast discussion that got cut out of here, but you'll be able to spot the four-letter four-letter. You didn't know where I was going with when I started to say four-letter. You'll be able to spot a four-letter decision framework that is dressed up as the future of work. You'll be able to, number two, you'll be able to name who profits by making this a layer of middle management into the villain, which we've had another podcast on that one recently. And then number three, you'll be able to notice when AI urgency, when that line's being used to import decision-making from 2002 bankruptcy.
Okay, looking forward to this.
Listen, I know I'm not framing it as well as the article's authors frame it. Okay, and there's a reason for that, because I'm not a big fancy BCG consultant. No, I'm just a simple man.
Simple man with a conscience.
Trying to do a podcast on the old internet. So before we begin, I think a great start to this podcast, before we start digging into the good and the bad of the article, and the bad of the article, is read through it. I will definitely drop a link in the comments of this podcast so people can read through it themselves when they want to. It's not that long of an article, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it up on the screen for us. I will read through some key phrases for us, just so that we have read the entire article together. Okay, and through the use of judicious editing. Then I like his little poker dice here. Did you see this? Slipped in a little casino dice up here.
Lots of different dice.
With his stock role-playing dice.
These dice may or may not be loaded.
Rosenthal and Zuckerman argue that AI is forcing an organizational reckoning, and the casualty has to be the management orthodoxy of the last 50 years. Consensus. So consensus made sense in a pre-digital, globally distributed world, but it carries two fatal weaknesses in the AI era. It's slow. Decisions get passed through haggles of lawyers, marketing teams, PR, investor relations, risk management, and compliance, each of whom is incentivized to mitigate personal and organizational risk. So they're basically saying, as these decisions travel up and down through corporate middle management, right, the edges get smoothed off and it gets turned into what they call success theater. Okay, and then the other one here, the second one, it says it distorts information. So that's the other one here. The result is what we call success theater, weekly dashboards, solid reports crafted by middle managers whose career depend on protecting the status quo. AI pushes us into rougher waters and turns both weakness into critical turns both weaknesses into critical liabilities. The first, because it rapidly accelerates the speed at which companies can and must operate, and the second, because the more AI accelerates decision cycles, the more working from filtered, degraded information. The kind of distortions consensus management creates turns into a critical liability. Okay, that's sort of his treatise on this. Let me page down. The result, they warn, is, quote, an organization that is both slow and blind, a dangerous combination in any era, but fatal post-AI. Now, there's the quote I'm on right now on the screen, right there. And then they introduced the OVIS framework. So the OVIS framework, meaning one person owns, 2 or 3 people veto or influence, and everyone else supports the outcome. That's the OVIS framework they introduce here, which we're going to talk about later, so we're not going to go super deep into it right now. It's a filtered, committee-approved reports. They say this helps you stop running those and then demand unfiltered signals directly. So trust signals over instinct. And then they argue that boards must demand unfiltered access to real-time signals that bypass the executive summary. And if we zip all the way to the end, we find their great big idea is like buried here at the end. They buried the lead here at the end. It says, we'll demand a world of continuous feedback loops and recognize that the greatest sin is not making the wrong call, but making no call at all.
Wow. There's a lot in this segment right there.
Yeah.
On the face of it, the thesis they have that information gets diluted the further up the chain it goes, so to speak. Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
Right, people, we've known this to be true for a long time. The deeper the flaky pastry is, the worse the quality of the information that goes bubbling up, because at every layer, people are vested in protecting their own behind. So, what turns out to be a grade 1 critical risk gets watered down a little bit at the next level, and the level above, it's, we've got this.
Yeah,
and the level above, it's everything's green. The so-called watermelon reports.
No debate there, right? No debate there.
Absolutely not.
All right, let's move on to...
We'll move on. I'm interested in the 4-character framework, so to speak, that they've introduced with OVIS.
All right. You're gonna have to hold your horses there for a second because... oh my. We'll get to the framework in a second, but before we touch the framework, we need to look at the argument. And in order to do that, but before we do that, we need to look at how the HBR article credentials these authors. And we need to look at the people writing this report. That's why this article. Okay. Here's how HBR credentials one of the authors. So I'm going to read the byline. It says, Jonathan Rosenthal, Chairman and CEO of Saybrook, a 30-year private equity firm. So his claim to fame was he's been part of several high-profile bankruptcies: Pacific Gas and Electric Company, Kmart, and United Airlines were the 3 big ones from his career.
Particularly as a rescue operator.
So what he does, I dug way into this, probably more than is not considered creepy, but so what he does is he shows up when companies are financially dead or dying, and he advises the people who get to pick the bones from the company that's dying, and also what I believe his current PE firm does is they buy control of distressed companies outright. So now he's writing an HBR article touting that he knows how to restructure healthy companies in a way that he restructures the bankrupt ones.
So he's the bone collector.
I dug into each one of these individually. I'm not going to bring that up here because it's probably going to be boring for a lot of people.
Fine. Yeah.
But in the Kmart one, for example, he was the advisor retained by the creditors who were coming in to the bankruptcy of Kmart. So he's sort of like you have like a demon and an angel on the shoulder of the person making the decision. Like, consider the people making the decisions were the creditors, like the bankers for Kmart, the people putting up money, and like he's the devil on the shoulder of those folks. So in case you thought he was like just talking to the Kmart people, that wasn't his job.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's one of the authors. The other one is Neil Zuckerman, who is a managing director and senior partner at Boston Consulting Group. That's right, BCG. He was the former head of the firm's global media practice, as far as I understand it. So going into this podcast, you have to kind of frame everything that we are about to talk about under the consideration that one of the authors advises the people putting up money for dead and dying companies, and the other one is a 30-year consulting vet who is, it's one thing that I took from consulting is you got to constantly be pitching your next client, otherwise you're out of a job. So,
Yeah, constantly pitching the next client is the job. Yeah.
So, with that being said, so let's talk about the Steelman here, because I feel like I don't want to bash on the authors too much. They're doing what they think is the best from their financial perspective.
Sure.
And I feel on the Steelman side, you're going to have the most cynical Steelman take we could point out is, listen, Brian, like that's HBR. Everybody that writes for HBR has some kind of incentive. They're all here to sell something, and everybody that reads HBR knows it. So what? Get off my lawn.
Yeah, that never used to be the case. I remember, some time ago, HBR was that stalwart of truth, where you could look forward to really looking at stuff that was real and that mattered. For that matter, look, HBR is favorably, by far, actually, the source for case studies that are taught in most business schools, at least the reputable ones.
Yeah.
So I remember going through that years ago. Lately, I don't know. I may have to question that, but we'll see.
I mean, the other thing that I would expect someone to throw out is to say, it's a PE or consulting experience. Like that's PE and consulting expertise. That's like, it might have bias or it might have like a slanted worldview, but like that is expertise. It's not expertise of the practitioner, but it is valid. Not a great, I wouldn't stake my claim on that one, but
if you're a theoretician, it's valid. But if you're looking for, practical advice, I don't know if you'd stop there.
Yeah. And then the other one is this diagnosis that they're saying of decisions by consensus are usually weak, and we want single-threaded leaders that just make a choice and move along. Like that's what I see in the field. That's what I see out of the Amazons of the world. And that's what I see out of all these people writing books. So as a practitioner, just a regular person off the street working in product management or whatever, like that's what I see. So you're telling me that's not right? Is that what you're
Yeah, that's interesting. There's two sides to that, though, really quick, right? Yeah, it matches what you see every day, but does that make it legit?
Thanks for going transitioning to our stance side of the world, and this one because the pattern recognition not being that's what you just said is because you can recognize a pattern of like, this seems like the world around me all does this all day long. That doesn't mean it's good. The fact that you note the pattern all the time happening that you've recognized, that doesn't mean it's a good pattern.
Right.
There's no deeper diagnosis being done here to say that the prescription that they're writing for you, use this framework or do what the things we're going to talk about a little later in the podcast, that to say any of those are valid.
Right.
And again, like I don't want to give away too much for future categories. So the other thing here is that the Shirky principle that we talk about all the time is like the people selling the medications, the people selling the cancer meds are not going to invest in like curing cancer for all time because they're selling the it's that sort of like that's the Shirky principle, which we run up against all the time. So
we sure do.
HBR is listen, they're a masthead, they're not a clean room. They're selling cancer drugs, they're not curing cancer out here. So like, get off my back. I get it, but also can we like slow down for a second and say but yes and
exactly.
But your whole site is geared at supposedly being the voice of executives and the elites in companies and institutions and stuff. So if you're willing to print something like this, like I understand you're saying, well, we're just a masthead, we're just a direction, a compass. We're not the authority where everything's been vetted in truth.
Yeah. So if any of these publications are close to whatever you might call a direct authority, HBR is it.
Yeah,
I would have to say.
And then one thing that the authors, the nice thing about this paper is occasionally the authors will go through and they'll kind of out themselves a little bit here. There's a few things in here that we're going to talk about today where the authors out themselves. They say, while the CEO and her management team must execute these changes, it's unlikely to happen without a board of true believers, devoid of the discomfort of radical mandates. So they already saying here, like, yeah, you probably if like your board doesn't support the CEO with these kind of wild ideas, it's not going to get done. So even in here, these ideas are a little, they need a board that basically swallows them and believes in the ideology. Psychopaths. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Sorry, I couldn't. That's not cool. That's
on point.
Yeah. So he restructures bankrupt companies for a living, and he wants to restructure your not bankrupt company.
I'm sure he's doing fine for himself.
He is doing fine. We had this kind of harkens back to Arguing Agile 240, the Spotify model, in that the model was never it was like a theoretical thing in time that never really existed, and it has shades of that. We coming up with this idea of how you can structure your company that never actually has been put into practice. That's what it has shades of.
Nice. Where can I sign up for this work?
I don't know if you can sign up for it, but we have some takeaways in section 1. So stop reading HBR as if the byline is the truth, and start reading HBR as if the byline is just a disclosure. So, and start asking, who is the author? Who has the author been paid by? In this case, this pays their own bills, right? What service does that party sell, and does the article recommend that service? Because I feel this is like the 1, 2, 3 punch of the funnel here, which is very close to another episode that I want to do a whole podcast on, where somebody sends you a McKinsey article or an HBR article, and you have to say, am I reading this to help me with a thing, or are we being sold something? Who profits if I follow this advice?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can't try it, ask in the next strategy meeting, what profits if we follow this advice?
That's right. Or who profits?
Yeah, who?
I hope this was a quick category. Find the most recent management article you got forwarded by your CEO. Scroll to the byline. Did the CEO check it before they sent it? Let us know in the comments. Again, I said I wouldn't do this. That your CEO was your 80-year-old grandma seeing things on Facebook and just taking them at face value. I said I wouldn't say it again, but here it is. It's true again.
Don't say it till the next time.
Man. All right, I can definitely make that commitment. So once you know who wrote it, the next thing is you actually look at what they're selling. So now we're going to open up the OVIS framework.
Ooh.
I know you've been waiting on this one forever. So now, on to the actual prescription, the thing that you're supposed to walk away wanting from reading this article, right? So here's the framework the HBR article wants you to adopt. And I'm going to read it verbatim. This is OVIS. One person owns the decision. 2 or 3 people veto or influence it. Everyone else supports the outcome. It's not a subtle refinement of consensus. It's a deliberate replacement. So here's what they don't tell you in the body. The article of this HBR article, OVIS is Boston Consulting Group's pet framework. It's published on BCG's public sector practice page. So when the article says, quote, time and again, we have seen the power of this framework. The we is BCG.
Of course it is. Yes. And why does that not surprise me that it's one of their own offerings?
And you're just reading marketing copy at this point. So if there's anything going into this, it's just a purely spot the play like we've talked about before. And we in the prep for this podcast, we threw up here on the screen a whole bunch of other copies of essentially RACI from the 70s. I think RACI's from the 70s. Responsible, accountable, consulted, informed, like the old RACI matrix. Bain has rapid, recommend, agree, perform, input, decide. BCG has OVIS. I didn't know that Atlassian had DACI, driver, approver, contributor, informed. I had no idea they had that until I did some research for this podcast. Anyway, everyone's got their own framework.
They sure do, and most of these are synonymous with one another when you look at the terminology, at least.
Right.
When you dig into it, they all formulate the same sort of structure.
Yeah. They're the Oprah of frameworks. That's what I'm saying.
Everyone gets a framework.
That's right. Everyone gets a framework. So what do you do when you can't? What do you do when you can't teach success? Teach framework. That's what you do. So speaking of being sassy on the podcast, let's talk about the Steelman own, because listen, you guys are just angry because it's a good framework. You should use it. That's what the problem is. OVIS clarifies decision rights cleaner than RACI. It's a honing. It's a sharpening of RACI. Okay, it clarifies decision rights. And diffusion of accountability is a real thing. The single owner default fixes it. Because in the OVIS, you have one and one single owner. And also it dovetails into modern business like the Jeffrey Bezos Amazon single-threaded leader kind of thing from the Working Backwards book that we reviewed on the podcast many moons ago. And then the pocket veto is a real failure mode. Most orgs have it.
Oh boy. To me, when I look at this, so let's just say at face value, this OVIS, one owner, seems like it's leading towards command and control, dictatorship. Somebody says what I say goes, and everybody just basically nods along in agreement.
Sounds like you're not being a team player.
I'm not being a team player. I never liked being a team player.
It's the same authority. Like the most cynical version of this is in corporate America, like the CEO makes a call anyway. It's the same. Like, so slap whatever label on it you want. The product manager who like does their roadmap and does their interviews, and then their director of product or their CPO comes down and says, I think most customers want this. You should build it as the top.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and build it?
You're going to do that. You're going to do it. So the cynic here, the burnout product manager is going to say, the same authority, new initials. I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing.
Right.
Keep on keeping on.
Yeah, it's cynical, but actually I think that's also what you'll find in practice happens a lot at some of these organizations. Some, maybe most, I don't know.
If I'm going to put a slightly softer touch on the cynic's point, I would get to what I think the practitioner, the normal practitioner, who's not burnt out, probably would say is like, look, RACI is useless. Like, I've spent many hours wasted on contributing to a RACI matrix for somebody who was asking for it because my boss said, just make them happy. This is their job. And it never got used for anything. It was useless to me, anyway, in my position.
Yep.
They'll say RACI's broken. They'll have the same story as me. But instead of saying RACI's broken and we're also going to abandon all artifacts that look like it, they'll say RACI's broken. Let's give OVIS a chance.
The next new shiny thing. Right. I mean, the whole point of RACI is to avoid the A like a hot potato, right?
Yeah.
So I think in OVIS, it might actually end up being the same thing at the end of the day. You know, avoid the ownership piece and let someone own it. And that someone's probably going to be by default the person at the top.
When a consulting firm's partner writes an HBR article recommending the consulting firm's framework, what they actually mean is, you know, call us when you need help with this. It's a marketing tool. Like clearly, it's a marketing tool.
Exactly what that is. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's move into our stance on this one. OVIS.
Sure.
It's out of place to me now, understanding what it really is, saying that it's in this article as like an error replacement for consensus. What does a RACI diagram or RACI chart have to do with AI error replacement?
It's because everybody's talking about AI. So what we're doing is brewing something up and we're just sprinkling in AI because we have to.
I mean, isn't this what we invented product management for? Like one person makes the decision. Yeah, it's a product manager. Like this is a solved thing. Why do we need a BCG matrix? Like, don't we just have the Marty Kagan books? Like we have product operating models and stuff. And also, unless you're saying we don't like having to share our decision-making authority with product managers, and you're saying,
oh, now you're going somewhere.
Somebody else.
Yeah. A lot of companies they tout that they have the product operating model in place. The product managers are empowered and authorized and all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, they do all the work. However, at the end of the day, whatever the head honcho says goes.
That's right.
We've talked about this before on the podcast where somebody goes to a conference, comes back and says, that's what they're doing. We need to do that too. The Me Too, right? So there's a lot of truth in that, sadly. The other thing is that if you're an organization that is doing this where the CEO or whoever, some high-level executive is calling the shots, you would likely already know that. So adopting something like OVIS isn't going to get you too far anyway.
Well, the structural critique of OVIS is where I start to throw rocks at the glass building over here. Like the veto circle. Like who decides who gets the veto? So let me get this straight. So like I'm going to hire my two buddies to be my partners in crime, my VPs, my senior VPs. Like if I'm the CEO, I'm going to go out and hire my two buddies from my other companies or places I worked, or just like my golf pals. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give them their official position is the VP veto holder. They collect their big salary, and then all they have to do is anytime it comes to veto me, they just don't show up that day.
That's what it's going to be. They're yes men at the end of the day, or women. Yeah, the whole thing seems like a charade.
That's right, ladies. You also can be yes men.
That's right. Yes.
You also can cash a check and do whatever your boss tells you.
This is an equal opportunity podcast.
That's right. It's an equal opportunity. And the funny thing is, like, everyone else just supports the outcome. That's your role. You support the outcome.
Everybody else is naughty. Look, they don't have power to even like push against that. So they got no choice but to carry that hot potato with them.
It's like disagree and commit, except you just commit. You just commit and commit.
That's right. Yes. Disagree is like
shouting into the void and commit.
Yes.
But listen, we couldn't sell books with shouting into the void and commit.
That's right.
That's right.
Exactly.
Arguing Agile 249, disagree and commit, corporate gaslighting, ? And what to do about it. It's got to be a tagline, what to do about it. It covered this authority concentration mechanism a little bit. We didn't go too in depth. And I don't know what, like, these folks that write these articles, I don't know what their fixation is with, like, little micro authoritarianism. Like, I don't know what their deal is. Like, there's been quite a few of these that we've run across that we, like, reject as, like, not great podcast fodder. And this one just happened to tick all the boxes. It touched me in all the right places. So I decided it was gonna be the candidate. But, like, there's so many of these people. It's like, dude, why do you worship authoritarianism so much? Like, what's with you? Come sit on the couch. Tell me about your problem. Put your feet up. Tell me about your mother.
Yeah, take two. Call me in the morning. Now, these people really do have. I don't know. They have a longing for a sense of control, I guess. So being authoritarian, it gives them that power, or at least a sense of that says, I am the authority. I'm the thought leader here. Follow me. But don't push back, because I will not tolerate.
I only follow one thought leader. Are there takeaways here? Are we done with this podcast? Reading framework rollouts as new methods. Read them as rebrandings of existing authority distributions. And look who moves up and look who moves down. And I feel I just slapped this sticker on the backside of OV or whatever it's called, OVIS or whatever it's called, Beavis.
Yeah. Beavis, yeah, Butthead.
Beavis and Butthead. But you've seen this before with, like, we were scaled Scrum or whatever, and now we're going to be safe, or now we're going to be whatever. Like, you've seen this played out over and over
many
again.
Times. Many times. Absolutely.
Corporate restructuring does this as well, We're AI first now. Oh, you know what? It's been a long time since I told the story on the podcast how I was introduced to SAFe. Well, initially when I was introduced to Agile for the first time, the company came in and said, well, we're Agile now. Everyone's a developer. We don't have QA, so we don't need to go through QA anymore. We just push our stuff out straight into production.
Who needs QA when you have the customers to do your QA for you?
The developers do all the testings, and then they started taking money
what
out
can
of
go
QA.
wrong?
It was this. It was exactly this. It's like, well, you're rolling out a framework that you don't even understand.
Right.
With no experience, not asking for help, nothing. You obviously want to do something. And that's what's happening. You want to do something. So, you want to consolidate power here, or you want to, make this step faster or whatever, and you don't care who gets hurt. Fine, just do that. Just do it.
Typically, the prescribers have no skin in the game. That's one of the common things you'll see here when people, they say, follow my framework because it's the best thing since sliced bread.
So, sorry, I was in the middle of saying who moves up and who moves down. So you map OVIS or RACI or DACI, whatever it is. You map whatever it is coming in over your existing process, org chart, matrix, whatever you have, and you see if it's essentially the same thing. You want to identify the support group, who used to be consulted, is now being informed. See if people are losing their rights in this swap. Obviously, you want to do this because you want to find out, who's losing their right to object to things.
Yeah, and I think the flip side of it too is like, who's gaining something out of this? Like, who are the veto people really? Are they truly independent, right? Look for those sorts of things too. It's
almost like we need to make a declaration of independence.
Ooh.
So, has your org ever swapped one decision rights framework for another and gotten a meaningfully different outcome? Tell us what that framework was and what actually changed in the comments, because we want to see if the framework or the leader actually did their homework. Because these folks didn't.
It would be very telling. So, yeah, I would definitely appreciate that.
And speaking of doing your homework, let's talk about the case study that they use in here to prove that this article and the suggestions work. Because the case study is from a 2002 airline bankruptcy. So,
that aligns to AI perfectly, doesn't it?
perfect. Nailed it. Okay,
Yeah.
so here's the line in the HBR article that made me spit my coffee. Okay, I'm gonna read it to you verbatim as best I can. It says, this approach builds on Agile methodology, but departs from it in a critical respect. Traditional Scrum teams recommend and escalate. The autonomous Scrum owns outcomes. I hope you enjoyed that one.
What? My first reaction is, ¿Cómo? That's
Yeah.
my best Spanish. What the heck is he talking about? Traditional Agile teams or Scrum teams don't own outcomes?
You seem confused.
I am very confused.
Let me walk you through it.
Oh, my goodness. And you can't say, oh, my goodness, without saying, oh.
Remember we did the episode on, what was it called? Sorry, I'll remember here in a second. People that are good at one thing. It was Arguing Agile 248, expertise overreach. Why being right once make leaders think they're right about everything.
Everything, yeah.
It struck me strong Arguing Agile 248 vibes of like, this person is good when it comes to, picking apart dead companies and making maximum profit for his people that are retaining him. And now he thinks he knows what Scrum is. Because this is the one that genuinely stopped me and had me go, we need to do an episode on this one, because he obviously has no idea what he's doing. But also, I love that even though he has no idea what Scrum does, he has the wherewithal to do the market segmentation that a lot of other folks are doing, traditional Scrum, right? So he's rebranding Scrum and using it in his own autonomous Scrum. Right. I think what he means by autonomous Scrum is he means to draw a dividing line between the Agile teams that own outcomes and those that do not own outcomes. I think that's what he means.
Yeah, so if you're truly doing Scrum, you absolutely own outcomes. Isn't that the whole point of having, sprint goals and attaining those? I mean, you're actually pushing for outcomes. If you're not, you're doing performative Scrum anyway, and I don't think that's what he's talking about.
Right. The old recommend and escalate is like that's barely Scrum.
It's not Scrum.
I mean that was
actually.
that's what came before anyway. That was the 2000s chaos development. You had to wait all the time for a decision, and the idea of Agile is we'll go straight to the customers. We'll have the authority, and we can, with the customer, just make all the decisions.
Exactly.
Right away. That is, I mean, like, if you don't believe that, you don't believe the Agile Manifesto or whatever, and you don't believe the entire literature body of work of Marty Kagan, I'm gonna guess that you didn't read any of it, or
you've never worked in a Scrum before.
Or maybe you're out of your element, out of your depth, out of your expertise, and maybe you should get educated before speaking on these things in an authoritative manner that other executives and CEOs are going to pick up.
Absolutely, yeah. Also,
and also, it's too early in the podcast because we have a section later to point this out. And also, shame on the editors of HBR for not catching this.
Definitely a double click on that a bit later. Yes, indeed.
So he says, we know that this works, meaning his autonomous Scrum, right? We know this works because during the United Airlines bankruptcy from 2002 to 2006, he says they didn't call them Scrums. They're not called Scrums, but we didn't call them Scrums. We called them working groups, but the structure is identical. Cross-disciplinary teams of 6 to 10 people drawn from creditors, management, labor, and outside professionals, each assigned a discrete and consequential task. One group was charged with renegotiating 660 aircraft leases. Another tackled, they leased 600 aircrafts? They didn't own their aircraft? No. Another tackled labor contracts. I didn't know that. I had no idea. They lease them from Boeing and stuff, and they just lease? And then Boeing gets the aircraft back after time?
No, so there's companies that lease them from Boeing and then they release.
Oh, there's companies
and
that
at the end of the tether, they sell them to Nigeria.
Wow, I didn't know that.
or some other African countries.
Yeah. Wow. Helios Air.
You're one of those planes when the door doesn't quite shut and the flight attendant winds a figure of 8 piece of rope.
Listen. It's
Nothing
like riding in the back of the truck. Am I getting to my destination? Yes, I am. All right, quick.
Banged up a little, but so
yeah,
what?
You're fine. Maybe you make it there with oxygen. Listen, you're fine. Okay, quit being a baby.
I'm good with all of that.
The 6 groups in total, each meeting twice a month, each given substantial latitude, with the default presumption that their recommendations would be adopted. Leadership's role was to monitor, guide, and create conditions for success, not to second-guess every decision. What made it work was not the structure alone, but the shared understanding of stakes. And then they give some other things. It would have been impossible in a traditionally managed organization. The great thing about the section I just read to you is him rebranding traditional Scrum, autonomous Scrum, and then describing the method that was used to help negotiate through their bankruptcy over 4 years or something like that. Is that the title of the article bashes consensus driven, and then he describes using consensus driven decision making in groups to drive a consensus.
So ironic. Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I see that's sort of somewhat contradictory here is, he's saying that his definition of what used to be called a Scrum team, what do they call them? He called them something different, didn't he?
He said that we didn't call them scrums. We called them working groups.
Working groups, yeah. So he said that, from what I surmise, he's saying that they chased outcomes. Traditional Scrum teams did not. And yet, in the second paragraph, he says what they were doing is basically making recommendations.
Right.
So isn't that contradictory? Shouldn't they be owning the outcomes of their actions instead of just recommending? Isn't that the same as just escalating things, or not actually doing the work? I don't know. I find that very confusing.
I'm going to move us into the Steelman. I feel I'm going to be a little softer on his side of the Steelman here.
Sure.
So in many enterprises, Scrum has been corrupted into a recommend and escalate ritual, especially in the larger frameworks. I'm not naming any of them. Could be.
It would be very unsafe to do that.
No, it absolutely would be. I would never.
So let's have less of that.
I can't even imagine having less of that, especially where they have one product manager and 87 teams. I would never recommend something like that. Anyway, the audience for the article and likely the writers of the article have only ever dealt with the Scrum teams who are operating in this like corrupted manner. So they don't even know that there's successful teams out there. That's again that I kind of feel that's a cynical take.
I don't. Looking at the article, for me personally, it's abundantly clear that they don't really know what true Scrum looks like.
Yeah.
So I'm not afraid to say it that way. Yeah, I don't think these people have experience with Scrum.
What do you mean these people? So the other one that I want to point out here before we move on is what he's outlining. What he described as working groups. Like he's describing empowered teams that with leadership presumption of adoption, meaning that the teams believe that they have the ability to make the decision and leadership's not going to override them going into all these decisions. Genuinely, like that's a strong model. That's what Marty Kagan writes about. That's what all of the Scrum frameworks and everything prescribe. Mm-hmm. That is the way that this is supposed to be. And right. And if you're doing that, then yeah, great. Congratulations. We transition into our stance on these issues.
Yep.
Autonomous Scrum owns outcome. Like that isn't new. That's, Marty Kagan made a living with a bunch of books about this. Scrum teams have always owned the outcomes. This is not new. I don't know why it's new here.
Yeah, I have an idea, but okay, let's keep going.
And the case study here used to prove that consensus decision making doesn't work is in fact consensus decision making working. So it's wild. Again, a true failure up and down of the editorial process for someone to say consensus-driven decisions don't work. And to prove that, I'm going to tell you all the times that consensus-driven decisions work.
I mean, the word irony doesn't even cover it, really. I don't know.
You mean in the Alanis Morissette way of using the word ironic? Yeah, I don't think it does. It's like rain on your wedding day.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a takeaway here, it's all of this stuff was wrapped under the guise of AI urgency, meaning you don't have time to get consensus for decisions. It's too slow. It's got too many, hang-ups. People could corrupt the results, that kind of stuff. That's what all this was couched as. But everything he just showed us is the opposite. So if you're reading something like this, or somebody in your organization is bringing in something like this, I don't know, like at least make them explain, and not use consensus-based decision-making as an attack on we should consolidate all the power with this one person, and I volunteer to be that person.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's basically what just happened here.
Right. You're going with your eyes wide open.
And also, is your firm bankrupt? Is there a reason that you need to consolidate all the power on one person to move quickly? Because your firm is your company bankrupt? Are your creditors at the door threatening liquidation? Like, if no, why are we consolidating for basically a bankruptcy exit
because it's the newest model from somebody who has some BCG chops.
I guess if you're saying if we consolidate for a bankruptcy exit now, then we won't be surprised later when
we go bankrupt.
That's right.
I love it. Yes.
That's right.
Forward thinking.
We're so forward thinking. So yeah, are we restructuring because of evidence or because of vibes, or are we just getting ready to drive the company?
We're just using the AI blanket to throw it on top of our heads and say, woohoo, we're ahead of the game now.
I like it. Throw that AI wet blanket on me because I'm done with this category. So it's a question for the comments for the viewers and listeners on this episode. Are we restructuring companies based on the implementation of AI? Is that what we're doing? Because that could be a really good podcast, and I'd be interested to talk about that. How to restructure decision making and structures and all kinds of that. So a little bit we talked about on the middle management podcast. It was the delayering disaster of Arguing Agile 253, Why Cutting Middle Management is Blowing Up. I think I titled it differently on YouTube. In that one, we talked about they're getting rid of middle management, but not replacing anything. They're just driving that work to other employees, up or down.
Up or down, yeah. Mostly down, but yeah.
Mostly down, yeah, right. Because, you got nothing better to do with your time. But that would be my question here is like, is actual legitimate restructuring going on? Or is it just the AI wet blanket being thrown over already poor processes? Let us know. So speaking of poor processes, let's talk about what unfiltered real-time signals actually means for people that produce those signals.
Ooh, yes.
So
there's some great quotes here.
And now to the part where the authors lose contact with how companies actually work in the real world. Here's the article telling boards that their, quote, fiduciary duty has changed. And I'm going to read this verbatim. From the bottom. The fiduciary duty of oversight now requires something more uncomfortable. Unfiltered access to real-time signals that bypass executive summary, such as short, bounded experiments with clear success metrics and accountability. All right, question, Ohm. Have you ever met a board member who actually wanted to pull real-time stats in a data feed? Because in 20 years, I've not met one.
No, I have not. That's an easy question to answer.
Boy. Boards can't continue to operate as they have in the pre-era. They're working off filtered, committee-approved reports from the C-suite. They are not exercising governance.
It's the next line. The fiduciary duty of oversight.
Fiduciary duty of oversight now requires something more uncomfortable. Is it uncomfortable? Or is it just a lot of busy work? Unfiltered access to real-time signals that bypass executive summaries such as short-bounded experiments with clear success metrics. So the board members are going to bring their own product managers now or their own data analysts now. More information isn't an invitation to meddle. I disagree.
I disagree too.
The default position should be to empower the autonomous Scrum and get out of the way. So the board members are going to come down to the cross-functional teams and start asking. That's interesting. That if this article wasn't so bad, I would invite that as a part that we should talk about. Is have you ever seen board members at your sprint review or in your planning? Yeah, I know. It's
never.
A lot of this article, like when we get into this part anyway, it's a lot like how to best care for your unicorn. Like, what are you talking about, dude?
Yeah, I agree. I think the uncomfortable aspect of board members actually looking at real data might be they might not like what they see, so they're just not going to look at that. That's how I feel. The uncomfortableness, discomfort, is because they probably don't really want to see what's there.
Yeah.
Clearly, it's sort of, can you read the top line? Can you read the fourth line? I don't want to read the fourth line, so I'm going to squint.
So the fiduciary duty business is just it's like when somebody uses a big word that not everyone understands. Everyone just kind of like nods along, and lets them keep going. That's what this is. Like I looked into corporate law and fiduciary duty, and this law has not changed in a long time. It definitely doesn't have any AI amendments.
No, it doesn't.
Recently about needing changes in reporting. It's just the Caremark standard that they talk about, and like we're not going to go into it because it's super boring. But the Caremark standard requires boards to have reasonable oversight system, generally satisfied by having any good faith monitoring.
There's a lot of latitude behind that.
Good faith monitoring. Yeah. So if your argument is people are manipulating these reports and not giving me clean numbers, then okay, well, you're a board member. Why are you standing by while you get fraudulent reports? Why not solve that problem? Are we autonomous Scrum? Because one of the pillars is transparency. Now I know you're big shot, right, for HBR. So like, I'm just like small fry over here, podcaster. but listen, I know what the pillars are.
Right.
One of them is transparency. The other ones are
inspection and adaptation. Yeah. Listen, most of the time, these board members don't even worry about these pillars. All they care about is rosy numbers, forward-looking statements, and how's my stock doing?
That's the craziest part is I've seen the most unhinged stuff come down from the top. Make this go away. Change this, change that. That kind of stuff. Say that we're doing this. We're building a mobile app this year. Well, we're not going to build a mobile app. Yeah, but everyone's building a mobile app. We can't be left out. We got to just add that in.
Yeah, that's right.
This is usually where the unhinged stuff comes from. So, yeah, it's great. Again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe maybe a career spent as a bone picker. Maybe that's different than a career spent in tech. But I don't know. Wild.
And the authors are saying that these people should be owning decisions?
I don't know, but HBR put them
Crazy.
up, so that's maybe we should write an HBR article on them. That's what I'm
we
saying.
should do that.
We need to couch it in a way where it appeals to the HBR audience, but then when you actually read the article, it's all like what they did with the, don't do consensus, just be the single point and be the single bottleneck for everything. It'll be the anti-gold rat goal book. That's what we need to write.
Oh my Lord.
Be the bottleneck for everything. Be a hardcore mode. That's the Elon Musk. What's his name? Brian Chesky. The founder hardcore founder mode. That's our new HBR article. Look for it coming near you, coming soon. Steelman, audit committees do request specialized reporting. They do that all the time. They like sometimes the board brings in auditors and they will go through with a fine tooth comb. I've been through audits. This stuff happens. And activist investors, they do bring in technical staff that can go get the data themselves, and they come on site and do whatever. And then I'm saying, temporarily, one-off, once in a year, maybe once every couple of years. Yeah, because that stuff takes money.
It does, and it's mostly done to placate regulatory violations or requirements.
Unless you're pitching your sweet consulting group to come in and a whole new business home, constant
influenced independence,
investor relations, a whole team that just 24/7 works for your investors and of course gets paid by your company on behalf. But it's great. Yeah, so I'm starting to see the market segmentation happening here. I'm going to stick with the Steelman though. It's like although I should just move on because I'm not supporting these very well. Some boards genuinely have members that are very technical backgrounds. I feel there's a missing second part of that, which is, and they're not querying SQL either.
No, they're not. They've moved on.
And then the success theater they name in here, like that stuff's real. Like the fake reports and all that kind of stuff. That stuff happens. It happens all the time. At probably every company I've ever been in, they massage the reports before they go in front of the board. Yeah.
That's a better word than manipulate, but yes.
Yeah, we don't like the word fraud because of it's a couple people got sent to jail now. Suddenly you can't commit fraud anymore. Let's look at the optimism. Let's be optimists for a second, okay? Because the practitioner side of this is, I have to say, I didn't put it in to the slides we just read. But the practitioner side of this is the one that I respect the most out of the Steelman. The practitioner will say, listen, the board meets a couple times a year. They're skimming the deck no matter how many details we put in. Who cares? Who cares what we put in? It's all manipulated. It's all fake anyway. They don't even read it. Most of the time, they don't even read it. So, big deal.
Yeah, calling me practitioner, I've seen that exact thing over and over and over again. It's got to end in one slide, and nobody skims it anyway.
I would take that practitioner's against point and flip it around and say, then why do we need this article? If you're saying that the boards never dig into this level, I would say then why are they suggesting it? They're suggesting getting real time. Most employees don't have real time access to most of these systems. Most employees are locked out of these systems.
Exactly. I was going to say they don't have real time access. Not because that's how the system is. It's deliberate. Like they're not given access.
And also the other point here that I touched on earlier is why are we not fixing the transparency problem? Why are we building a bunch of systems and involving consultants and doing all this like backflips? Why don't we just solve the transparency problem if that really is a problem? Are you saying it's too culturally spread to do anything about? And if that's what you're saying, I will say that is the most cynical take.
It may be the most cynical take, but I think the disease is malignant and there's no easy cure. So we're living with it right now, as we have been doing for a long, long time, sadly.
Yeah.
Now what we're doing is we're just putting under the dressing on the wound and calling it AI.
Let's see if we can have some takeaways here. So
Sure.
when the diagnosis is information distortion, the cure is transparency as a corporate value, not a whole bunch more dashboards or consulting dollars on a team to come in and do whatever, or a bunch of your board members wasting time vibe coding SQL searches or whatever. Like, I understand the tools
That
exist.
doesn't happen
I
in
understand
reality.
no, absolutely not. But I understand, but that's what they're leaning towards. Is, well, anybody's got AI now, so that's where they would go here. But in reality, what would happen is the company's not spending money because the board members say they want to engage their consulting firm to do some audits, they build some reports, and blah blah blah. Now the money's flowing back to BCG. That's it. I mean, it's not like a 1, 2, 3. It's a one-step issue.
It certainly is. Yeah. I call that influenced independence.
So I have some questions. Is your org's actual problem information distortion, or is it lack of transparency as a value?
Not declared, but probably the latter.
Right. And who profits from this suggestion? Just build more systems, rather than just change your values. Or get a CEO, or change enough board members, or change enough senior leadership that they bring in the values that you want at that company.
Right.
Value-driven board members. I was going to say development, but it's not development.
They're not going to hang around long enough to see results if you're going to do things the right way. So they may as well just do the song and dance and move and pocket the difference.
I got a
big difference usually.
I got a Monday morning, what you can do Monday morning kind of suggestion here. You pick a report that you do on a regular basis, or a status update, or something you do on a regular basis. You say, what would it take to make this report tell the actual truth without consequences? And if you can't even try it, I got one piece of advice for you.
Keep that resume updated. I would say, if you're doing status reports regularly, just don't do it for a couple of weeks and just repeat the last status report you did 2 weeks ago and just send it out with a new date and see who complains. Because most people just look at it and go, yeah, looks good. That's it.
Listen, same thing with the board. Mm-hmm. They're not going to read. They're going to skim it. They're going to skim it. They're going to skim it. They're going to listen to the story. There's another podcast I want to do about storytelling.
Yeah, that's a great one.
They're just going to listen to the story and be enamored with the story that the CEO is telling when they're waving their hands and stuff. Like, it's just, bananas. It's a bananas suggestion. And I don't want to spend any more time on it. So, comment time. Have you ever worked closely with board members? I have. So, I'm interested how many other folks that listen to this podcast have. So, have you ever seen them ask for and or pull real-time operational data? Or did it always get routed through management of some way, shape, or form? Tell us specifically, because I'm interested to know about this, unfiltered signal work that they're talking about here in the article. And now let's talk about the part of the art. And now let's talk about the part of the article that gave the whole worldview away: the peacetime general portion.
Ooh.
You're gonna like this one, and this is the part of the article that ends flattering you instead of flattening you. I don't know why they would do that. That seems rude. Yeah. So here's the closing story from the HBR article, and I'm gonna read it verbatim. I'm gonna put it on the screen here. I'm gonna read it verbatim. It's executives who thrive in this environment. The environment they're explaining is so you don't have all the decision, you don't have all the information at hand, but you need to make a decision anyway. Okay, they will share a particular disposition. They'll be comfortable, even excited, making consequential decisions on incomplete information. They will trust signals over instinct, speed over process, and small teams over consensus. Wait a minute, I thought our board was pulling real-time numbers. Why don't we have data? They will demand a world of continuous feedback loops and recognize that the greatest sin is not making the wrong call, but making no call at all. I'm a product manager, so I don't none of this is new to me right now. Okay, this is at its core a test of character rather than capability or intellect. We once encountered a CEO mid-turnaround who argued with genuine conviction that his talents were better suited for growth than crisis. That's like being a peacetime general, we told him. He was replaced the next day. The anecdote is instructive, not because of its outcome, but because of the psychology it reveals. Even as the organization was failing, the leader's mental model remained anchored to a world that no longer existed. And then they go on to talk about the speed of AI, and you need speed of decision making. The issue is you just need to be more reckless and speedy in your decisions, and maybe move fast and break the law. That's what
move fast and break things. Yeah.
So that's the closing story of the article. Now I want to ask a few questions. It's our 10 question speed round. Oh, that's right. It's like Lenny's podcast, except real questions. Sorry. So now questions. Now I want to ask the questions that the article isn't going to ask. So what was the person's name? What was their company? Was the replacement a good call? Did it destroy the company? Was a new CEO better, worse, or fired 6 months later? We don't know any of that because the article doesn't say. There's no name, there's no company, there's no date, there's no follow-up. It's what they're doing here is not an argument. It's a flattery delivery mechanism,
Right.
meant to compliment the reader and say, "See, kid, like I don't know why the kid is. I don't know why the reader is like a puppy.
You got to pat him. Yeah.
The reader's a puppy. It's meant to talk down, honestly, to the reader and invite them to identify with the wise judges of character. Not with the guy that didn't make the cut. Which is funny because a lot of people reading this might identify with the guy that didn't make the. Well, I don't know, my company's growing pretty big. I have imposter syndrome. Like everyone's supposed to just nod at this anecdote and go along with the whole thing. Here's the issue. This is a pop business shoplifting happening right here. So Ben Horowitz wrote the original Peacetime CEO, Wartime CEO essay in 2011, and it also landed in the book The Hard Things About Hard Things,
yeah.
in 2014. The HBR article here, the authors in this HBR article, they use it without any reference to Ben Horowitz, any attribution to Ben Horowitz or the hard thing about hard things. So it's saying that it's borrowed without attribution.
Lifted, shifted
is polite, I will say.
Yeah.
And once again, something else the editor of HBR should have caught, especially if they're the business editor extraordinaire over here. And I'm kind of shocked that this I'm kind of shocked that they didn't. And there's not, because it would have been so easy to just have a reference in there to say,
just put an asterisk on it and then put a footnote in,
or a throwaway line, as they say in the book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, and then
any attribution would be, I think, the right thing to do. Yeah, it's shocking, but also very disappointing as a former consumer of HBR articles en masse. That's still going on, by the way. HBR articles are the fodder for MBA schools. So if this is the quality that we're getting now, I feel for our upcoming generations.
Bananas.
Crazy.
So listen, decisive leadership under uncertain conditions and without data. That's real. You like some people freeze. There's self-aware leaders that do step aside because they know they're in over their heads. Like that's a real thing. And also, get off my back.
It's also rare.
And also, anonymous anecdotes are common. They're a common writing convention. It's just a writing convention. Although I wonder if the people saying that Steelman and defending it would also agree, like commonly lifting from other publications without
call it what
attribution.
You like. It's stealing. It's leveraging. Whatever you want to call it. Right?
Oh man, listen.
A lot of people are saying fill in the blanks. It's like nobody's saying it, but you said a lot of people are saying.
I don't like to call it stealing. I like to call it light shoplifting. That's what I like to call it. Little pop culture shoplifting. The great thing about the against here is like there is three things going on. Is because of the Agile reference, number one. But number two is because these three things together really, really threw me for a loop. And I was like, three things that we watch out for in the same artikel? Time to bring this one up.
Jackpot, my friend.
So the credential parade, because the authors are positioned themselves like big name companies and, hot shots. There's no second guessing us. We make, important decisions.
Yeah.
And then unverifiable stats. Right, so the no name, no company. We washed out the CEO. We're great, and then the self-flattery of the reader that obviously is going on here. Yeah, buddy, you're good enough. It's almost like the opposite of the fear hook that we point out so many times, where they're like, if you're not using AI, you're gonna be left behind. It's almost like the opposite of that.
Yeah.
If you make decisions without evidence, and you never look back whether it was a good decision or a bad decision, you're a good boy. have a dog biscuit. I don't know where these things come from.
Oh boy.
Let's zip through these 4 items here because it's too much on the screen, so I'm not going to read. Yeah. But that academic, there was an academic point that we probably didn't even read on the podcast because it wasn't very good. It was saying like, hey, listen, like the flexibility of the message to apply to the audience that we're writing for, like that's a real thing. You need to have articles in the form of what these folks are looking for. Except except it treats all of the examples that refute the binary position that this article is pointing out as if they don't exist. It treats the Jeff Bezos and Reed Hastings and all those folks of the world that actually built a good company, and it doesn't touch on any of them. It's like you need to make basically all the people that say like one-way door versus two-day one-way door versus two-way door decisions you can go back on. If it's a one-way decision, you really do want to investigate and do your diligence. Right. You don't want to make your decision without a lot of evidence. But if it's a two-way door, then go for it. Things like that. Even the culture of the Amazon 6-pager. You don't bring up a 6-pager and get it, thumbs up and get it going unless you've done your top to bottom research. Yeah. And this is sort of like, don't worry, CEO, Mr. and Mrs. CEO, don't worry. You can just make 6-shooter from the hip decisions and you'll be fine. That's what it seems.
It does. It's amazing to think that, people of this caliber would endorse such thinking.
And anybody that's questioning you need this OVIS framework because they should just be the crowd. They should just be, just shuffle them off. Pick your favorite 2 people and they can have the veto authority, and then they'll let you know because they're your favorite 2 people. So you can trust them to let you know when you're gone too far or, you're not taking things into consideration. You can trust them.
And it gives you that fake independence too. It's not my decision. They even endorsed it, right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Bob told me it was a good idea.
Yeah.
It's little Timmy told me it was God bless us, everyone. A Dickensian Christmas tale. That's what we're doing on the podcast. Boy. And then, as always, we're exposing the meta pattern. That's the payoff of this episode. The whole episode shows the behind the curtain of what's happening. It's the unverifiable hero story to reader flattery to buy my worldview to now buy my book.
Yeah.
/services / consulting.
Right. At the end of the day, that's where it lands.
This is the funnel mechanism. And boy, I hate it. I do hate it. I do hate it.
Sure.
But for the purposes of time, is there a takeaway in this category? If someone's telling you this story, that's what it is. Someone's telling you this story, and they want you to nod along. They want you to come along with them and get inspired by this story. Like, are there names of people or companies or dates in this story? Were there follow-ups done to the story? Or are they just telling you a Dickensian Christmas tale?
Is there any substance there?
Yeah. I mean, you ask these questions as the story is happening. I mean, I hate to be the one that's like, you should question when someone's, trying to inspire you, whatever, but you kind of should, because at the end of that inspiration is, if I'm nodding along and I'm just like placidly just kind of, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, we should. Yeah. When are they going to turn it into, and now you need to buy my book? Like, when's that shoe dropping?
It's coming. Don't worry. So, you may as well just say, wait a minute, right? Let me just introspect this a little bit more.
Man, if the Anecdote is doing all the rhetorical work and can't back any of it up, you have to ask, where's the verifiable evidence here? Not just the narrative strategy that's being deployed here.
Not just the story,
Yeah. Where's my answer? So, last comment of the episode, tell us what your most recent management article that closed with an anonymous hero story like this was. We'll link it because we'd like to go read it.
Sure.
And when did you realize that you were being flattered into agreeing with things? So
and what did you do about it?
And what did you do about it?
Yeah.
That's right. Flip a table. Tell us when you flip the table. So after 5 segments, we have a case study in bankruptcy that's retrofitted with Scrum vocabulary. We have a proof in the point that consensus management is not working that shows consensus management to be working.
It's actually working, yeah.
And we've got some AI sprinkled in somewhere because AI is hot.
Yeah.
All the kids are doing the AI. So, read the byline, audit the framework, check the proof, read the article. I try to link it in the comments and, nod along like I was nodding along with it and spitting my coffee when I read it. So, when we first read through the article, when we were prepping when we were prepping for this podcast, I thought that it was just a brochure with citations until I dug into it and I realized that the rot is real. And it goes deep, and it's like I was really concerned with the question of how did this get past the HBR checks or editors or editorial review or whatever. I don't know.
That is amazing to think that that it was even edited, because I don't see that much of an evidence there. Was it really? It's just submitted and published without any checkpoints, possibly. I don't know.
I guess.
Maybe because of the chops of the authors. Who knows?
I mean, again, that's part of the credential parade that I was pointing out. Is that they worked at Google for X number of years. They must be, smart
They must know what they're talking about?
Yeah, they must know what they're talking about. I'm not going to question them or do any of my editorial checks or anything. And that's just wild for HBR that so many people look to kind of lead them in their thought leadership. Wild.
Yeah, crazy. Absolutely. So that's one of the other takeaways from this is, look at your sources, figure out what quality of output they have, and be your own judge.
That's right. And, and if you like this podcast,
like and subscribe.